Fantasy Football Tips Podcast with Mills, JP, Quigliano, and Cliff.
Hi, you're listening to the Fantasy Football Edge podcast. It's game week 12. My name is Mills and I'm joined this week just by JP. How you doing, JP?
I'm excellent, Millsy. I'm delighted to be here, and it's going to be nice just for two of us.
It's great to have you here, and it is nice just the two of us. We had a couple last season, didn't we, where it was just the two of us, and, you know, I thought it was pretty decent. So hopefully, you know, we'll live up to expectation this week. So coming up in this week's show, JP, we're going to have Steal or No Deal. Obviously, we're going to go into podcast extra time, where we're going to be talking about our captain picks and even more drivel. We're going to be talking about the international break. And I've got something special that I'm going to be talking about as well that's completely off topic. So, and I've not prepped you on this. So
I'm excited.
It could go anyway. We're going to be talking about David Moyes' appointment at West Ham, possible Sam Allardyce rumours going to Everton, and of course the big fixture of the week with Arsenal versus Spurs, plus all the other rubbish that we normally talk about. So, JP, I'm going to talk about it straight off the bat here. International break, how has it been for you? I absolutely hate this time. And I know that, you know, potentially England have had decent fixtures with Germany and Brazil, but it's not been great so far, has it?
No, it's been awful, Millsy. It's horrible. It's almost suicidal. It's that bad. Like, my life is worse when it's international break. I hate it with a passion.
Well, you've got months now until the next one, so that's the only good thing to come out of this. But let me read this list of possible sort of yellow flag injured players, and these are not definitely out, but most of these are possibly going to be missing because of injuries picked up in the international break. Eden Hazard, Mane, Giroud, Chicharito, Jones, Vertonghen, Batshuayi, Butland, he's almost definitely going to miss out, by the way, Sterling, Delph. I mean, what a list.
Wow, that is a big list.
It's, you know, if you've got two of those players or more, you're absolutely devastated, aren't you?
Yeah, well, I can imagine that some people would have transferred in Hazard after his performance against United, so that could be a real problem for some people, because he was outstanding against United. So hopefully scuppered some people there, not me, thankfully.
Absolutely, and if you've got Otamendi, who's on a ban this week as well, then you're even more scuppered, aren't you?
You're in a world of trouble.
Dele Alli as well. I don't think I read that one out. So there's
another
one.
Bad one.
So yes, so you know, and lots of people making early transfers this week, despite you know, everyone knows the dangers of the international break with injuries, but you know, Salah, top transferred in player. Phil Jones, second top transferred in player for this game week, and he's possibly going to be injured. I think he'll be back. He tends to pick up these little niggles, and he tends to make the Man United squad. But you know, well, I'd be disappointed if I'd transferred him in, put it like that. So
absolutely,
yeah. So people just don't learn, do they? So how's your team looking for this week? Are you fairly confident for game week 12?
Personally, no.
That's good to hear.
Season. I believe my tips are better than my own performance, if you want my complete honesty. No, it looks okay. It's all right. I'm not going to lie. I'm looking at the fixtures and had a little look at them. I'm not overly confident about them. I think Arsenal Spurs we're going to talk about later. I think that's a tough game to call at the moment at Emirates. So I think that's a tough one. Chelsea away at West Brom. West Brom are poor at the moment, but notoriously concede many goals, so interesting one. And then you've got Liverpool, Southampton. Again, Southampton, another side who don't concede many goals. I've got a feeling you could see some pretty low scores this week.
Yeah, well, I'd like to play devil's advocate there. I actually think this is. I think this is going to be a decent week score-wise. I really do. I think you'll see goals in that Arsenal Spurs game. I think Man City Leicester, that potentially could be an amazing game. I think Leicester, you know, they love that counter-attacking style, even at home. Man City are definitely going to dominate that game. I think the one that might disappoint might be the Liverpool-Southampton game. You know, if Southampton really do go there and defend, which we probably expect them to do, given their form hasn't been brilliant this season. So that could be a tricky one. I think Liverpool might actually keep a clean sheet in that. And then you've got Chelsea going to West Brom. I don't know, that could kind of go either way. I think West Brom are a little bit more open these days. Certainly the way they approach the Man City game at home. So you might see a similar game there. I think Man United Newcastle, it could be the return of Lukaku. But we'll talk a little bit more about that later. So, JP,
Absolutely.
we're going to have a short break and then I'm going to talk about something completely random.
The Fantasy Football Edge Podcast. 90% drivel, 9% ego, and 1% tips.
Right, JP, this is extremely random. This is... Let me put a bit of context in front of you here. My daughter, she's 6 years old. She returned from school today, and we usually do a bit of reading when she gets back. She's just moved up to level 9, and what I've realised between level 8 and level 9 is that they're throwing some very different content. I want you to tell me what you think this book's about. This is the title.
Okay.
This is the title.
Okay.
The Ghost and the Sausage.
What? Really?
The Ghost and the Sausage.
I'm concerned by that. We said level 9.
Level 9. And apparently it follows... The last story was Fiddle Dee Dee.
Oh my goodness.
I mean...
That is concerning.
I don't want to infringe any copyright here, but if possible, I might tweet some of these out at Fantasy Foot Edge. So it's absolutely dreadful. The story is frighteningly... to be honest, the story's not that bad. The pictures are dreadful. So I'm going to read you just a short extract here. This is from page 4. Could I have something to eat, asked the boy. There's a big sausage in there. Have that, said the woman. And the man and the woman rushed away. The boy found the sausage. He put it on the end of a fork and sat beside the fire to cook it. Then, rumble, rumble, down I tumble, said a voice. I mean, JP, pictures, there's a skeleton coming down the chimney.
This is horrifying. Is this what we're teaching our young children these days?
Well, I was going to ask you that. You've got a little bit of a background in education. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, I'm concerned. I'm appalled. Are we sure this isn't some of your adult reading material, Millsy?
This is... There's not even a blurb on the back. It's that bad. Anyway, we're going to move on. I might read another little extract in podcast extra time.
Absolutely.
Right, JP. I want to talk, before we go into the main tips for the podcast this week, I want to talk a little bit about West Ham. Since our last podcast, I think we talked, it was highly likely that Bilic was going to get the sack, and obviously he did. David Moyes, the new appointment. Thoughts on that? Is he going to revive their season? Is it a good appointment or not really?
I'm going to say I'm concerned about it. To be honest, he seems like a broken man since Everton, doesn't he? He went to United and it all went to pot. And since then, he's just had a catalogue of horrendous situations. Sunderland. He was abroad in Spain, wasn't he? Was it Valencia? Am I wrong there?
Real Sociedad.
Real Sociedad. Awful there. Awful.
Gary Neville was Valencia.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. Just genuinely, I'm really worried for that club. So, my honest opinion would be no. I don't think he's going to turn it around. They're playing Watford at Watford, who Watford are a bit shaky at the moment. They started very well and they've done poorly recently. So, it is a game where he might do something for them. They might want to impress him, but I certainly wouldn't be putting any West Ham players in anytime soon.
It's a tough one, isn't it? I mean, it's not the best time to come in. International break. There's going to be players out, away from the club. So he's not had a massive amount of time with all of his players together. So it's not the easiest game. And although Watford, their results have been a little bit shaky of late, they've still been scoring goals. I mean, they scored 2, at Everton last week. I agree with you. I think it's not the best appointment, given the fact that I think his confidence is shot. He didn't have great roles after the United game, the United job, and that was always a poison chalice anyway. So he's had a pretty tough time of it, and if he doesn't get off to a good start, then I think it is going to be an extremely difficult time for him. So I'm not sure. I think Watford could do okay this week. I really do.
I do as well. I think Watford will score several goals against West Ham, and I think again you've got a few options there we can talk about later in that Watford team. So. Absolutely. Okay, JP, we're going to move on then to the Gary of the week. I have no idea what you're going to say here. This is usually Quigliano's baby. It's going to be your baby this week. Right, are you ready for this? Because I'm going risky here.
That's interesting, considering you were struggling on a long shot.
Because it's the Gary. It's a guaranteed point scored, but at the same time, I'm not sure how people are going to feel about me picking a goalkeeper for a Gary.
Ooh, interesting.
But I'm going to do it because you know what? Sometimes you've got to stick your neck out on the line, haven't you? David De Gea, Manchester United, guaranteed clean sheet against Newcastle at home. Notoriously very difficult to break down this season. I'll come back to it. We've conceded 5 goals all season. That's United. I can't see Newcastle breaking down that back 4, and I can't see them scoring. So my Gary is a guaranteed clean sheet off David De Gea. Plus, I'd like to add that he gets bonus points. So even against Chelsea, he got some points because of the amount of saves he makes.
Yeah, and he does influence games, doesn't he? I do like that show. I think, like I said earlier, I think Man United at home against a team like Newcastle, who, you know, have done pretty well this season so far by all accounts, considering they're just back in the Premier League. But this is different level, and I think, yeah, I can see a clean sheet there. I think it's ballsy calling out a guaranteed clean sheet. It's a big shout. Yeah, you know, I could have gone for a striker. I could have gone for Lukaku, but that's like out of form at the moment. But you know what? I'm calling it. I think it's a guaranteed clean sheet. I'll put money on it. Okay, I like it. Not sure how many people will be making a goalkeeper transfer this week, unless they've got Jack Butland. But if you've got Jack Butland, it's a great shout there. So let's move on to the Xabi Alonso, the long shot.
Right, I'm glad you mentioned that because we had a good chat about this before coming on to the show, and we talked about Wilfried Zaha at Crystal Palace. Now, a couple of weeks ago against Chelsea, he looked absolutely phenomenal, and since then, you know, he's not really had an opportunity to play. I think he was injured, actually. Is that correct?
Well, he was injured. He's come back from injury, hasn't he?
That's what I mean, yeah. So he's only recently come back anyway. So that was his sort of first game back. So he's not had many opportunities to prove himself. I think against Everton at home, I think they are in desperate measures, aren't they? Crystal Palace, they need something out. They need to pull something out of the bag this game. I think Zaha looks very, very good. If he's going to do it against anyone, he's going to do it against Everton. Their defensive record is hideous. I'm going to say, long shot, Zaha, 2 goals and an assist. That.
I mean, wow, that's pulling things out of the air. What I will say is some of your stats are like pulling things out of the air a little bit because Zaha's been back for 4 games.
Is it 4? I apologise. It was 3.
It is 4, but in that time he's scored 2 goals and he's kept a clean sheet. That's not really massive. It's just 1 point, isn't it? But 2 goals out of 4 games returning from injury is not a bad return. And in that time they've played Chelsea and Spurs. So
exactly. This is Everton, isn't it? So, you know, exactly. They're really struggling at the moment. So
they are. I think they are struggling. I think they need a managerial appointment sooner rather than later. And just while we're on the subject of that, Sam Allardyce is the mention as a short-term replacement. I think they want Diego Simeone long-term. But Sam Allardyce for Everton, is that a good fit for you?
It's a great shout. Like, this man is known for his ability to get teams out of trouble. Like, that's what he's made a career out of, you know. He brings a solidness. We know that usually he tightens up back 4s or whatever formation you're playing defensively. I think he'd be the ideal man for that job at the moment. I think he'd steady the ship and I think he'd take them upwards.
Okay, great stuff. Right, we'll be back right after this with this week's side tips.
The Fantasy Football Edge Podcast, giving you the edge over your rivals.
Okay, JP, the floor is all yours this week. You've got free reign. Hit us with some side tips.
Well, it's big shoes to fill because Quigliano, I must say, does a very good job of this, and I'm going to compliment him. But I'm hoping that I can live up to the expectations. So I'm going to fire them out pretty quick here. Obvious side tips here. You've got the United players playing Newcastle. Rashford is a good option, quite cheap in comparison to other attackers. You've got Lukaku. Hopefully, he's going to start scoring again. I think this is a perfect opportunity for him to do so. Then we're going to move up the fixtures. You've got Liverpool playing against Southampton. I know we mentioned that it could be a slightly dull game, but nevertheless, you've got some good options in Liverpool.
You've got a completely different opinion to me. If you think it's going to be a thriller, tell us.
I think it's going to be a thriller. Okay. I think you're going to get something out of Coutinho. I think you're going to get something out of Firmino. You know, I think there's some good side options in there. Absolutely. Moving up the table, moving up the fixtures, you've got Man City, obviously, playing away at Leicester, but Leicester are not well known for keeping clean sheets or looking good defensively. So you've got options there in, you know, David Silva, De Bruyne, Sane. Still, I mean, he's been unbelievable, hasn't he, Mills?
Yeah,
unbelievable. Yeah. Unbelievable. He's almost not a side tip. He's more of a Gary, really, but I'm going to put him in there anyway. I'm going up the fixtures again. I'm going towards the Arsenal-Spurs game. I agree with you, Mills. I think this is the one game where you could see goals. Interesting. Dele Alli's not playing. I think that will impact Spurs.
He might be playing. He's a doubt. So
he's a doubt. Yeah. Okay. So but obviously you want to be careful with him. Then I won't mention him. But you've got Eriksen, you've got Kane. On the flip side of that, you can talk about Alexis Sanchez, Lacazette scored again. I know he came off the bench, but he did score, and he looked very, very dangerous to me going forward.
He's been hit and miss for me, Lacazette. I've had him in my team a lot of the season, and he's just not consistent enough. And when I watch him in games, I just feel like, is he going to do anything? But he does tend to get himself in the right place at the right time.
Absolutely.
Every now and again. Yeah, I'm not sure against Spurs. I think the goals will come, but I think they'll come from Spurs. I think Arsenal are going to struggle in that game.
Well, time will tell. You could be right. I think you could see one or two either way, but we'll see. We'll see. Next side tip. We mentioned Cook. We were going to almost talk about him as our long shot. I think Cook looks really good. He got good points in his last game. I think he was a top point scorer. Is that correct?
Yeah, he was joint top scorer with Salah.
Yeah. Again, another option. Didn't mention Salah, actually. Should have mentioned Salah. He's been phenomenal. Well, he's been Liverpool's best player, hasn't he, this season so far?
He's been, brilliant.
And then we move down, and again, I do mention them a little bit, but I'm going to do it again. Watford players, you've got Dakara, Richarlison. Again, they both scored points. I'm sure that one of them scored against Everton. I'm not sure which one.
Richarlison scored, yeah.
Richarlison got a goal. So lots of tips there. Lots of tips. I think I'd be a little bit interested to see what happens at Chelsea against West Brom. I know we mentioned there's a chance for goals there, but I'm not so sure if it's going to be a high-scoring game, particularly if they've not got Eden Hazard. I mean, he was their best player by a mile. So, yeah, that's the only one I'd stay away from. Lots of side tips then. What do we think, Mills?
No, I think that's a decent shout. I mean, you did make up a few words in there along the way as well.
Yeah, I was nervous at times. I'm going to be honest. It's a big responsibility.
Yeah, absolutely. But some decent shouts in there. I think. Okay. All I'm going to say is, you said you think it's going to be a low-scoring week. I think it's going to be a high-scoring week, and I think based off your side tips there, you've got to say it's going to be a high-scoring week. But who am I? Who am I? Just the boring old host. Anyway, right, JP, I've got one question that I want to go to. And then we're going to go into podcast extra time, where we're going to be talking about our captain picks, a few more questions, and I might even read another passage from The Ghost and the Sausage. And today has been a fantastic day. First of all,
why?
Before I say, because Sushant is now following us on Twitter.
Oh, that's fantastic! Welcome back.
Welcome back, Sushant. Now, whether it's enough to pry him away from his degree, I don't know. So we'll see. Tell. Is he probably wavering? Is. I think he might be cracking a little bit. He's missing us, isn't he? So yeah, he's finally followed the new Twitter feed, which is at FantasyFootEdge. If you're not following it at the moment. So anyway, I've got a question from Twitter. Actually, it's from FPL Heart. In fact, it's not really a question, it's more of a comment. FPL Heart on Twitter says, "What happened, guys? Lost your mojo. Predictions not on the mark since your return. Still love the humour. Great pod. Get Cliff back. Tweak those mental algorithms. Use the dark arts. Summon the spirit of @Sushant20 if necessary. I'm languishing. You are my only hope."
Wow.
I mean, it's FPL Heart, and it's a heartfelt tweet, I think.
Well, I mean, first of all, wonderful use of language. My goodness.
Should be writing on the site, really, shouldn't he?
What a fantastic writer we've got in our hands. He makes a good point.
Or her. It might be a girl, I don't know.
It could be, yeah. We don't want to be sexist here. No, I mean, the tips have been difficult this year, I think. There's been so many different options. I think it's been exciting in that way, There's probably 6 or 7 strikers that you could pick from at the moment. And that's just an example. So it's been quite difficult to predict exactly week by week who's going to be the best option. But I think maybe a bit harsh. I think there's been some really good shouts at times. We mentioned Sané early doors. He's come in. There's been other good shouts, particularly from you, Millsy. Actually, I think you've done really well this season so far.
Oh, thank you, JP.
You're welcome.
That's very kind of you to say.
You're welcome.
Okay, we are going to go into podcast extra time, where we're also going to be talking about what to do if your team is ravaged by injuries thanks to the international break. So plenty still to look forward to. If you're not signed up for the podcast extra, go to fantasyfootballedge.co.uk and click, I think it's the Join Us button, and sign yourself up there. I think you can get like a 1-day free trial, so you can listen to it anyway. In fact, I've just looked on the Twitter feed, and Sushant had actually tweeted us saying, "So what did I miss in the podcast extra?" Well, Sushant, you know what you've got to do.
He knows.
You've got to move over to the dark side and sign up. It's going to cost you a tenner. I think he's in New York, so what's that in dollars? It's probably like $14, something like that. Sushant, it makes sense.
Change.
Everyone else, it makes sense. We'll see you on the other side. Otherwise, we will see you in game week 13.
The Fantasy Football Edge Podcast, giving you the edge over your rivals.